up, y'all? I'm Ariel.
And I'm Amber.
And it's Motha Knows. We here.
And we're back.
We are back.
Whew.
This deserves a deep dive.
See, okay, so the audience doesn't know, like, we've already, filmed an episode and it was
Right.
a little deep.
It was.
So now we're like coming down off of that topic, y'all. Just, I won't say a lighter, well, a little lighter.
It's a little
definitely
lighter,
a lighter topic.
Still very important.
Still very important. Still kind of dives deep into like the individual, aspect and psyche, right? But just in a different way. But child, today, I feel like after today, I need some fries, a burger,
some fried chicken,
a cherry Coke, like something like. And I know we shouldn't lean into food as like that thing that brings comfort, but
sometimes you have to.
I'm just gonna be real, child. A good burger and some fries right now.
And leaning into food is better than leaning into something.
And a nap. Yeah, it's true. Because there's other vices that that we could be, but we won't.
And we haven't.
I said that. What?
I'm just saying, and we haven't. Let's make that very clear.
Oh, no, very clear. Like, very clear. None of the hard stuff. A sister might get a glass of wine, but nothing. Why are you looking at my teeth?
What? Y'all, this girl is weird. Literally, if you have a sister or a sibling in general.
No, I felt like
they just break out into, why are you looking at me like that?
Right.
What? Like, I'm just looking at you.
Like, what you trying to say?
We're
like,
podcasting.
What's the subliminal message?
Talking. Okay. What is wrong with you?
But like when you're talking to somebody looking down, like.
I didn't even I think I was like scanning you.
Well, what you scanning?
Listening. Like, you know how you just normally listen and take people in? That's all I was doing.
I just didn't know if you were like trying to give me the signal that I have something on my teeth.
Ariel would just say it. I think at this point we should just tell each other.
Get that real quick?
Yeah.
On the camera?
It's easier.
On the camera?
Yeah.
Get that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you got to tell me something? Is something I got to get? She's like, all right, well, now that we're here, get that right there.
Go ahead and get that.
All right, let's focus, child. Okay. All right, today we are talking about all things what?
All things, we called it insecurities, but then we talk about imposter syndrome. So I think insecurity is a good broad term.
Yeah.
There's nuances to insecurities, we know. So for me, I don't know if there's a hard like title, but imposter syndrome feels like the specific aspect of insecurities that we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Okay. And what is imposter syndrome to you?
To me, it's the feeling that whatever space you're in, for whatever reason, you feel like you're not equipped enough. You don't have the skills, capabilities, intelligence, whatever you think you need. You feel like you don't have enough to do that job well or to be in that space. So that's how I define it.
I would add on to that. My thing is, or my definition is feelings of inadequacy or incompetence despite having evidence. Having evidence of success or evidence of, or facts that you have made it, or, you're supposed to be where you're,
like you
where
wouldn't
you are.
Be here
Yeah.
By chance. Yeah. And so, like, when I think about that, this is new, right? This is a new platform, our new page. This is a new journey for us. So in this space, I do sometimes, I won't say doubt the capability to do it, but I wonder, what am I trying to say?
I think initially when we jumped in, we were just scared about how it would be received.
It's like a nervousness. Like, yes, how will we be received in this space? So I'm okay. Thank you. Like I think it's the acceptance part of it, right?
Right.
Because we overthink our mannerisms. I do anyway. I
overthink everything.
I overthink like how fast I talk. Like I know I speak fast, and when I hear it, I'm like, girl, slow it down. But I'm from up north, so I can only do so much,
Right.
Or like,
will we have enough for the topic?
Right.
Will we be funny? Will we, have? Will
it resonate? Will we pull people in? Like, will they like us? So I think that is something that I do grapple with. I'm gonna be honest. Like whenever we step in front of the camera and we pull these microphones out, it's like, okay,
all right, here we go again.
Right. Come on, y'all. Like, share, subscribe.
Right.
Like, share, subscribe.
And subscribe. Who are we talking to here? Do we have an audience?
Seriously. But I'm thankful that you and I are learned enough to understand that before we jumped into this space, we did the research.
Right.
So we took it upon ourselves.
A bit.
Yeah. Like we took it upon ourselves to look at other pages, to look at other podcast groups and see their journey. And I'm gonna be honest, unless you're like already in the spotlight or have some notoriety or something that people know about you, girl, it's gonna start out with 4 likes.
Yeah, you're gonna be working hard. Yeah, right. You're gonna be working hard to cultivate an audience, and that's not easy to garner people's approval, to create influence, to create impact. That's all very hard. Yeah, a hard thing to do. So I applaud us because we talk about the imposter syndrome, and I think we all have a little bit of that, and we've dealt with that in some capacity, despite what the evidence may say and the facts may say. We still doubt that we're supposed to be in the room. We're supposed to be here. The way I've dealt with it when it comes to this podcast is I am someone who's a perfectionist a bit, but I lean on that a little bit.
I'm a person that's gonna kind of like flow into it, Ariel, dot the I's, like cross the T's, like
remember it's not symmetrical.
We need this, right?
Why didn't you crop that?
This. So we got to do this, but I appreciate it.
Which is funny
because your organization, helps me.
There's spectrums to it though, because I've learned that I'm kind of a go with the flower when it comes to certain other people, But anyway, for me, that perfectionism can sometimes be a crutch because it stops you from doing the thing.
I got you.
You have to get it so perfect and so right, and that you just do it. We talked about this a little bit, but I think there's beauty in some of the unknowns and learning and the process.
I love that you said that.
And going as you, learning as you go. But sometimes you just have to jump in and trust that this space is for you, no matter what. It's for you.
And you were called here for a reason.
For a reason.
You don't have to understand the full reason yet.
Right. And it's on your heart for a reason to do it.
But I love that you said beauty in the unknown, because for me, I'm an overthinker. So where yours is perfectionism, mine is like, I'm going to overthink the how. Like, how do I do it? Right. What do I say? What does it look like? Like, I overthink every single step before I even take that first step. So by the time it's time to take the first step, I've talked myself out of it.
Right.
Because I've come up with all of these reasons and like logical explanations of why it won't work, or why it won't resonate, or I might make a mistake, but I'll just overthink that thing to where I'm paralyzed and I just won't make that step.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you said the beauty in the unknown, because now doing it right. So now we've faced those two aspects of perfectionism, overthinking, where diving into it, we see the beauty of people like organically enjoying our content, organically reaching out and interacting with us. And it's like, okay, the more we lean into our authenticity instead of trying to make it look like something,
right, the better.
That's when it'll really start to, I think makes sense for us. Not for the audience, but for us.
For us. Yeah. I got you. I like that. I also say too, there's beauty in the process, there's beauty in the unknown, but it also too, like, it has been hard for me in jumping in and seeing the results of, like, sometimes people gravitate to some of your content when that content isn't perfect. And although I'm grateful for it, the perfectionist in me is still seeing, oh my gosh, I misspelled that word and it's going everywhere. It's like, it's kind of like nails on the chalkboard. But I think the lesson in that is like just kind of the release of it. Like, you really have to trust that it's the content and the message that people gravitate to, and not so much the like the ins and outs and the actual verbiage, but the overarching message that you're giving people.
People like to feel like they can feel you in that moment, or relate to you. So to your point, like, like the little typos,
the technicalities.
And I think it shows you too, like, people aren't even honed into the details, the level of detail that you are, right? So they quickly read it, laughed, liked, and moved on.
The things you're worried about, they could care
less. They could care less. Like, they didn't even see it.
Right.
And so I think that's another thing to take away from it, is the critical eye that you're giving it. They're here for a couple of seconds and out. Yeah.
Or even just a good message, like, they don't. It's not the technicalities that they're they're here for.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I also thought about too was how does the imposter syndrome, since we all, I think, grapple with it a bit, like where does it come from? And one thing I thought about was like the messaging that we've grown up with sometimes around stepping into rooms that maybe, you know, realistically, I'll just throw out some numbers that relate to me. So realistically, when it comes to my athletic career, only I think like, you know, 1 to 3% of athletes get to the level that I've gotten to. So that's a statistic that is a fact.
Yep.
You know, it can't be denied that in and of itself, athletes just usually don't get to that point. So I think there's something to be said about the real facts around where I am and how I got there, but also too, you made it. So what's the messaging? Why are you so hell bent on thinking maybe I shouldn't be in this room? You know? So I think that there's a push and pull between fact versus feeling.
Yes, absolutely. So oh man, this goes deep, I think, where my mind is going with it. So of course, like you have those childhood conditionings, right? And I mean, it could be from your household to the stuff you see on TV, to the racial, subliminal messages, like
messaging,
especially
propaganda.
If you're, let's just keep it real, a young Black kid
and a young Black woman too.
Well, that's why I said kid, like to, you know, like to make it gender neutral.
Okay.
Right.
I think about like the messaging for little girls too, though, is what I'm saying, like your hair and, you know,
right. But that's what I'm presenting. Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so when I, like,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. For boys and girls, like there's messaging on both sides where it's like, you're not good, like, you know, you're not good enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you don't look like the standard, or you're
aesthetic.
Not. And one thing I would love for us as Black parents to stop doing is telling our kids that you have to work harder to be seen.
You have to be twice.
You have to be twice as, you know, like to make it, to get that shot.
So what I'm talking about too here is where we are here. It's the maybe tailoring the message a bit so that we're not hindering our children, but also preparing them for what is realistic and what is out there, which is there's going to be some people with biases. You're going to be met with the fact that there's not as much representation of you in these spaces. So how do you navigate that so that you understand the realities, but also are not hindered in thinking that you're not supposed to be there?
So I think with all of the resources we have to ourselves today, we can frame that reality. You can take them to things that where they see themselves represented. You can make sure they're watching cartoons and shows where they see their likeness. You can take them to a Black Santa. It's the holidays, to a Black Santa where there's things that we can do to frame their reality. Yes, the world is the world, but let's just keep it real. Like even in our community, there's going to be people that don't like you for no reason.
True.
There's going to be people that think that they might have a leg up because they have a certain skin tone. Like there's just so many subtleties in our culture and within the Black culture and then broader that they're going to face just living in this existence. So I think us framing their reality and building their reality will help them to even diminish those attempts, right? Yeah. So when we frame their reality, no, you're beautiful, you're powerful, you're this, you're that. They can see someone, right? They can see someone try to diminish them and be like, you know what? Okay, so I see that's more about you than it is me.
Right.
Like that's your projection, so I can't even give it that much energy.
And that's the insight you should definitely have. I also think too, teaching them to really hone in on what is fact and what is evidence.
Yeah.
What is real.
Yep.
So
what's real? Yep.
For me, you know, when I first got out of law school, I was provided a position in a law firm that was literally, it was me in the office as a Black female associate, and it was just me, you know, who represented a Black woman. And if you know anything about the legal profession, I believe it's 2% of Black women are in the profession. 2%. That's it. And so, you know, I had to quickly understand, number one, the realities, but also two, in those thoughts that I had of, you know, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I don't shouldn't be in this room. I would be going into meetings where it's me and it's, a handful of white men and maybe one or two white women in the room. I remember walking into a deposition one day that I was taking, and the opposing counsel asked me if I was a paralegal. And I'm like, no, I'm an attorney. And I should have kept my mouth shut to see if he was going to say anything, give any details about his case, thinking I was a paralegal. But anyway.
But would that have been like, okay, say you had said yes, would that have been like misleading? Oh, she misled me.
I wouldn't say I was a paralegal. I'm saying I should have kept my mouth shut as far as if he didn't ask me.
Oh, I got you.
If he just presumed
or
assumed that I was a paralegal and just started talking, I would have kept my mouth right
on shut. Right.
But anyway, but really, for myself, it's when I was in those spaces, kind of going through what is fact-based and, like I said, evidence. Okay, I went to law school. I graduated top of my class. I deserve to be here, and this is why. And you run down the list like, no, I'm here for a reason, and they need my perspective. Really, that's really how you should be thinking about it. I think for our children coming up, like, no, they brought you into this room not only because you're competent, you're brilliant, but they need your perspective. Diversity is important.
Just your story like made me think about because I did deal with imposter syndrome for a long time. Now, I it's a lot of factors to it, but speaking of corporate America, my first working experience, like stepping out of grad school, and working for a company, I was the only African American woman there. The only I was the youngest there too. And I'm in Texas, like huge Republican state.
Right.
I'm working for a private boutique firm.
It was owned by a woman, right?
Yes.
White
and
woman?
I thought about saying her name too.
But no. Okay.
Because I'm with the.
Okay. Continue with your story.
Try me. But anyway, yeah. So yes. And at first, okay. So in my interview, this should have really given me alarm bells. But in my interview, she was like, "Yeah, we had a guy working here before you, and it just, it just didn't work out well, and he just he was, just always accusing me of not liking him for, his ethnicity." And I was like, "Okay." And she was like, he was, and I was like, "Black?" And she was like, "Yeah."
Get it out.
And she's like, "So I don't want you to think that that's going to be an issue." Girl, about 4 months later,
you were like, "Whoo."
Everything I turned in was wrong. Everything I did was like, "Well, why didn't you do this?" And why, like, literally, like 4 months into it, she started
she just shifted?
Nitpicking.
Wow.
I'm talking about Ariel out of nowhere. It went from her wanting me to mentor her young girls that were coming up in psychology too. And I think honestly what it was I don't think she expected me to
connect with
not her daughters, but to connect with the employees and clients as well as I was.
Oh.
And with my work, I'm just going to toot my own horn. I don't think she was finding as many like holes and gaps where she could correct it. I think she felt like, let's just keep it real. Like there are some people that look at us and they're like, oh, they're not going to be as good, or I'm going to have to teach them a whole lot, and I'm going to have to groom them out. Like all of that, silly thinking. And when she couldn't and didn't need to, I think she felt threatened.
Yeah.
Because I had a manager between her and I, and the manager would like look at my reports and look at my work. She'd be like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is awesome. Like, I'm going to send this right away to a client. Let me send it to, her too, so she can look at it." Girl, she would come back and be like, "I don't understand why she wrote it this way. I don't understand this. I don't like," and the manager would look at me and she'd be like, "I literally like don't understand what her issue is." Like it had got so bad. She was like,
"Talk about insecurities."
Understand. She was like, "I'm looking at your work and it's like," and this is another white woman. She's like, "I'm looking at your work and it's great. Like, I don't get it."
Did she ever say anything to?
No.
Yeah.
She was. I will say that she was the CEO in that company was a bully. Like you could not say anything to her without like
risking
basically
your own livelihood.
Yeah.
Got you. Oh wow, that's unfortunate.
But she was just like, "I'm so sorry," like But then I felt
at
like
least you had someone there validating your
work. I did,
but
I was like, advocate.
Right. Okay. That's number 2.
Yeah.
You would hope you had someone to advocate for you.
Yeah.
But at least you're not there thinking you know, because that could really tear a young, you know,
it did for a while.
But thinking back to, you know, you're young, you're just starting out, you know, imagine it did for a while, but imagine not even having that validation.
That's
how
true.
much more it would have torn you down.
Like what? So is my work really
right?
Is it really crap? Like, is it really that bad?
So
but she
thank
was
God
like,
that there was someone there to at least tell you, like, no, this is good work. You know?
She was like, I don't understand what her issue is, and I'm like looking at her like, girl. You know what her issue is.
We both know.
We know.
Girl, her issue.
Right. But yeah, so that it did stick with me for a long time, like going into corporate America, like in other jobs, and being like, do I belong here? You know, like, will they see my work for what it is? And there were other instances, again, just being an African American in corporate America and having to prove yourself time and time and time again, you know?
Yeah.
Especially compared to your peers. And I would look at my peers' work, which was far less, but I'm getting all of this feedback on my work that is just, you know, a step above.
So what are some of the ways that you have worked your way out of imposter syndrome?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I think that if you're going to stay in corporate America, then you need to be intentional about finding a mentor and an advocate, a sponsor. They call them sponsors.
Right. Someone who can actually make moves for you.
Yeah, and speak up for you. Right. Where it's not a threat if they speak up for you.
Right.
Well, and they could even be African American, but at a level where when they speak up, it's heard.
Yeah. When I say make moves, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Like they can actually act for you.
Yeah.
Not just tell you that your work is great.
Exactly.
They're acting.
Yeah.
With those stakeholders that matter.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. So if you're in that space, I would do that. But outside of that, I would say it's not until you create your own thing and have to put yourself out there and have to build it up and really imprint and implant yourself into it that you start to understand, like, wait a minute, like,
I'm the ish. I am
like,
that girl.
I have the intelligence, I have the creativity, I have the innovation. Like, I have
just holding me back.
Listen, I'm giving y'all how many hours a week?
Right.
So
stifling, limiting, all that I could do. Yeah.
So again, I'm not gonna be like, if anybody out there, but if you have something that you want to build and create, just, you know, it's there for a reason. Like, it's there to prompt you and to propel you into a phase of growth that you probably wouldn't be in corporate America or under someone else.
And I'm not here to be irresponsible about it too. Like, you know, I think there's something to be said about having some income and having a livelihood. Absolutely. So we're not saying like quit your job tomorrow.
No. I'll say you can do both
but you can do you can do both. One can supplement the other, or you can really just explore your creative juices while you're, you know, working in corporate America.
That's where I was going to
go. You know what I mean? One thing I would say, so I talked about, you know, one thing, which is making sure that you remind yourself of the evidence. So what you feel versus what is fact. The facts are, I've achieved this. I know this, and this. Reminding yourself of the facts so that it can combat that imposter syndrome. The other thing I would say is affirming yourself. And thankfully you had someone validating you, but I know based on how we were raised, you know, even sometimes when we don't even know it, you know, we are telling ourselves, I'm more than a conqueror. I can do all things. And, you know, I am smart. I am beautiful. I am kind.
No weapon formed.
You is important. All of that, you know, like telling yourself these things, affirming yourself so that you are combating those negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Is really important. Self-talk, very important.
It is important. Because even like, okay, so going back before corporate, like even in the school age, the formative years, where again, like you're seeing representation, you're seeing what's being celebrated in society, and then you start to look at yourself and you're like, wait a minute, I ain't got none of that.
Right.
Like I don't look like that.
Right.
So then you start to question, like, am I? Like that self-worth and that self-esteem starts to shape, right, and starts to form. And so I think that it's important that we are making sure that we're reaching back younger to just build them up, you know, because it really does start at the young age. And that's why I think that we're intentional with our kids about building them up.
Right.
So that they know that wherever they are, they belong there.
I love that. Yeah. So not only are we're speaking to those individuals who can be mentors, but also remembering that you need to give back and pull the next person up.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah. Like, what has been your, I'm not going to say, well, yeah, what has been your biggest, like, fear or limiting thought in this space?
For the podcast?
Yeah.
I think really it is it's something to be said about putting yourself out there, especially when you're like used to, putting your toe in there and like people kind of gravitating toward it. So when you're in a creative space that people aren't used to seeing you in, and it's slow moving, and you're like, okay, we're out here and nobody's listening, and you're still putting yourself out there. It's it can be kind of a mind warp, for lack of better words, to see, the people that you feel like should be supporting you, not, and it be quiet on that front.
Oh yeah, real quiet.
It's real like quiet. It kind of it messes with you a bit.
Yeah, I used to take it personally too a little bit. Like, okay,
how could you not though? Like, these are people who you're like, okay, why aren't you at the very least, why aren't you supporting me?
And then you just look at raw numbers. Like, so it's like, okay, I have so many followers.
Right.
I can't get at least 5 reshares, but what I will say is credibility is real.
Yeah.
And so when I had that flip switch and I was like, wait a minute, okay, trust, we know trust doesn't come. If you break it down to trust doesn't come easy. People say you have to earn trust. I say, look at the patterns, look at what this person is doing. Is it consistent? Like, does the action meet the word? Like, so it takes time to build that up.
Right.
And so thinking that people should just give you their trust and think that you're credible in this space, maybe they do just need a little bit of time to, if you think about big celebrities like the Beyoncés, and the homegirl is popping now.
She worked.
But Beyonce been working since she was 4 years old,
like,
okay?
Since they had them coordinated
and didn't pop until she was a good, let's be honest, 17, 18 in a group. Solo wise, she was in her 20s.
25, yeah. So it took time, and so it takes time.
Yeah, so when I like looked at it objectively, I was like, huh?
That's good context.
Yeah. I was just like, no, you just have to build your credibility up. Yeah. Like, why would they believe you just off jump?
Right.
If you say
especially
that
in this new space.
Right.
They've seen you in all these other capacities, and then you're saying, oh, I'm gonna do this too. And also too, being realistic in looking and we talked about this, looking at all of the ways in which they have supported you in other avenues. And now you're doing another thing, So you can't
now they got a podcast.
Right, exactly. Now they're doing this. So you can't expect people to just jump on board every time. A lot of that is a little bit of well, I'll not say a lot and then a little, but some of that is induced in entitlement.
It is like when you step back and you're like, why?
Like, bruh, support me,
okay?
And it's entitlement,
right? Like, why would they believe that you're this without having the proof, the evidence, and the facts? Right. So give them the facts.
Right.
Give them the consistency, and then over time, God's gonna do what God's gonna do.
Yeah. And
I don't even have we don't even have to, worry about it.
And the real thing for me is, okay, sometimes it takes building up your platform and creating a community with people you don't know for the people who know you to get on board.
Yeah.
And I've seen that plenty of times with many people,
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, we could call out names where it's like it's the people that didn't know them,
that really supported them and propelled them
and pushed them forward,
right?
And the people that knew were like, "No, you're gonna have to show me a little bit more."
A little bit more. And some of that is not just credibility; it's them limiting what they see you as
and see themselves
as, and seeing that you're doing something, and it might intimidate them, or they wanted to do something in this space or another space, and they're seeing you move. And it's prompting them to do something, and it's now like, do it,
Exactly. Like, I think my motto is, it's about them. So look at how people react and how they respond. That is about them.
Yeah.
Right. If someone really celebrated themselves, believed in themselves, and supported themselves, like, it would be no problem for me to then lend that out to you because it's within me. Like, that's the light that fills me. But if something else fills me, then that's what I'm going to project onto you.
Correct.
you know?
All right. And it's easy to harp on the people who aren't versus the people who are. There are so many people in our community like that. I don't want to call out names, but there are some people who have been 10 toes down. And
y'all need that comment, got you. Y'all need a share, a like, got you.
In every arena we've been in, and those are the people that, like, for real, like, I feel like I have that spirit that I'm helping regardless. But those people, like, you don't even really got to ask, you know, like, I got you. Yeah. So what about you? What's been something in this space that has?
I don't want to repeat. Like, I don't want to.
Was it kind of the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, we can get out of here early then.
I mean, and I think I like also said it earlier. Like, I'm just an overthinker about how I verbalize like my thoughts, because I've always gotten the feedback like, Amber, slow down, right. You know, like. So I always kind of in the back of my mind, I'm like, that is something that I have to continue to work on. And if it never changes, it just never changes. Yeah. You know, like if it's something that is just, I'm always going to speak fast, and it is what it is.
I mean, I think we've seen our improvement in this like short period of time. Yeah. Like me and you have talked about it. So I think over time it will certainly improve, you know? Yeah. But I mean, I really hadn't even noticed, you know? I really haven't. You've been doing great, girl.
All right. Thanks, girl. Because every video that I watch back, I'm like, "Ooh, child,
slow it down." That hasn't popped into my head one time.
But again, you know how like you have those things in your mind that somebody else implanted there, so it's like now it's just on repeat. Yeah. You know,
because my thing, like I said, I'm a perfectionist, y'all. Any little mistake or anything, I'll be like, "Ooh," it's like cringe. It's like,
oh yeah, I did bring up overthinking too. I think overthinking. This is the overthinking for me.
Like, girl, why did you say catch 2020? Like, why?
And no one heard it. Like,
no one.
I
was talking about piercing the corporate veil in one of our other videos, and I'm like, girl, you should have thought that through a little bit better, and you should have relayed that message a little bit tighter and cleaner and concise.
What was the?
It was like a legal thing that only only lawyers that watch would be like, boo, you know.
But I was probably sitting here like, okay,
yeah.
That sounds smart.
It should have been a little tighter, girl. Lock it up. But those are the things that like are individually like only you see, you know, like you have to actually call it out for people to really hone in on it. I mean, certain people might, because that reel where we got a couple of comments, it's breathe, not breath. We get it.
There were a couple like, girl, move on.
I was typing fast in the middle of the night when I posted that reel. Leave me alone. Because you do be wanting to go back and forth, but then you're like, you know what? Right. Thank you for the engagement. At the end of the day, thank you for the comment.
Thank you for that comment. Thank you for those stats.
But I can't go toe to toe.
And she will.
But anyway.
And will.
Anyway.
But okay, the last thing I'll say is, right, we talked a lot about the internal, right? Like those internal aspects of imposter syndrome, right? Or I'll say insecurities, right? Because that's an aspect of insecurities. But I think it'll be like great to just, as we progress into the conversation, right? Like there's internal, then there's external. Like what are the external? Because we all have those too, especially women. Like, ooh, girl, like if I could just get a nip and a tuck and a this and a that and a that and a that, like the list. We can go quick.
We can quickly have this conversation.
But yeah, we'll save that for another time.
And I'm gonna be judicious about what I share. Because I could go down the list, child, you know, but I think all women are like that. And society kind of breeds it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, thank you so much. Let us know what y'all think about imposter syndrome. Have you dealt with it? What are your thoughts? How have you overcome it? Anything you could share that would be helpful to us and our community, we appreciate it. But also like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, whatever applies. Share,
subscribe.
We appreciate y'all.
You can find us on YouTube.
Yes.
At Motha Knows Co.
At Motha Knows Co.
Motha Knows Co.
TikTok at Motha Knows Co. And Instagram at Motha _ knows. Okay? Motha _ knows. Okay?
Hey. Oh, you were on the Instagram one. Sorry.
Yeah. Talking about some code.
No. It'll come up on the end of the screen.
No, for real though. TikTok, Motha Knows Co. YouTube, Motha Knows Co. Instagram, Motha _ knows. Thank you guys and have a good one.
Bye y'all.
Bye.